You know that feeling, right? That massive 30-page contract hits your desk and you just sigh. It feels like a chore, maybe even a little scary. But what if it didn't have to be? What if you could look at a contract not as a hurdle, but as a roadmap to a great deal? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Here's our game plan. We're going to start with a big picture, the entire journey of a contract. Then we'll zoom in on crafting the agreement and decoding all that tricky fine print. After that, we'll talk about what happens after the ink is dry. And finally, we'll get a peek at the future and how tech is changing everything.
All right, first up, the contract lifecycle. I love this concept because it completely reframes how you should think about this. A contract isn't just some static piece of paper you sign and then forget in a filing cabinet. No, it's the living, breathing blueprint for a business relationship.
So what is that journey, really? Thinking about it this way is a huge mental shift. You stop just reviewing a document and start managing a process, from the very first idea to the handshake and everything that comes after.
And yeah, that whole process has a name, Contract Lifecycle Management, or CLM. And look, this isn't just corporate buzzword bingo. It's the framework that lets you see the whole journey. It's about getting ahead of the game, being strategic, and actually getting the most value out of every single deal you sign.
The whole thing really breaks down into these 5 main stages. First, you create it. Then you scrutinize it. That's the review part. Once everyone's happy, you execute it with a signature. But hey, it doesn't stop there. Then you have to actually manage it. And finally, you analyze how it all went so you can do even better next time. Let's walk through it.
Okay, Section 2. Let's start at the very beginning, crafting the agreement. You know, it's like building a house, right? If that foundation is shaky, the whole thing could come crashing down later. Getting this first stage right is absolutely essential.
So what does a strong foundation look like? Well, it starts with smart drafting. And a lot of the time, that means using templates to keep things consistent and moving fast. Then you get into negotiation, that all-important back and forth where you hash out the details. And finally, you need a clear formal approval and signature workflow. No shortcuts.
All right, now we're at the part everyone dreads, decoding the fine print. This is where you really have to put on your detective hat, because this is where the biggest risks, and sometimes the biggest opportunities, are hiding in plain sight.
And this quote right here says it all. You're not just reading words on a page, you're performing a risk assessment. You have to look at every single clause and ask, what does this actually mean for us in the real world?
Okay, so let's hit some of the big ones you have to watch for. First up, indemnification and liability. This is huge. It basically answers one simple question. If things go south, who pays? This clause can mean millions of dollars, which is why it's almost always the most fought-over part of a contract. Next up, you've got your intellectual property and confidentiality clauses. Just think of these as the high-tech security system for your company's most valuable stuff, your ideas, your data, your secret sauce. They spell out exactly who owns what and who's allowed to talk about it.
Here's another one people mix up: service level agreements, or SLAs, and compliance clauses. An SLA is a promise about performance. Think a web host promising your site will be up 99.9% of the time. Compliance, on the other hand, is about following the rules, the outside laws and regulations you have to obey. You need both. And look, in this day and age, there are 2 clauses that are totally non-negotiable. First, you need rock-solid data privacy and security clauses. A data breach is a nightmare you don't want. Second, a clear dispute resolution clause. I know, it feels a little negative, but trust me, figuring out how you'll handle disagreements before you disagree will save everyone a world of pain.
So the contract is signed. Awesome. Pop the champagne, right? Well, not so fast. The job's not over. Now it's time to actually put that contract to work, to turn it from a dusty file into a powerful tool you use every day.
Because if you don't manage it actively, this is what happens. Pure chaos. You miss renewal dates and either lose a good deal or get stuck in a bad one. You can't find the document when you need it most. You forget about obligations you promised to meet. It's a recipe for disaster.
So how do you avoid all that chaos? It all starts with a central contract repository. This is your single source of truth. One secure, easy-to-search place where every single agreement lives. This is ground zero for getting control.
Once you have that system, then you can really start managing. You can track all the key dates so you never get surprised by a renewal. You can manage any changes or amendments properly. You can run periodic audits to make sure everyone's holding up their end of the bargain. And you can govern the whole process so you know who has control.
And don't forget, not all contracts are the same. What you're looking for totally changes. With a vendor, you're laser-focused on their performance and liability. With a customer, it's all about what you have to deliver and making sure you get paid. And for an employee, protecting your ideas and secrets is number one.
All right, let's bring it home with our final section. We've gone through the whole life cycle, from creation to management. Now let's talk about where this is all headed. Because the future of contract review is a massive leap from tedious manual work to truly intelligent insight.
Think about this for a second. For most companies, something like 85% of their entire business runs on contracts. The sheer volume of it all is just mind-boggling. And at that scale, the old way of doing things, one person in a quiet room reading one document at a time, it just can't keep up.
Which is why the single biggest change to this field in decades is happening right now. And it all comes down to two letters, AI.
And no, this isn't some far-off sci-fi stuff. This is here. AI can now automatically scan thousands of contracts and flag risky clauses for you. It can pull out key obligations you might have missed. It can analyze all that data and show you trends across your deals. We're talking about a process that used to take weeks of painstaking work getting crushed down to just a few minutes.
So that really leaves us with one final question to chew on. When you look at how you handle contracts today, is your process built for the past or is it ready for the future? Because the answer to that question could be the difference between a good deal and a great one.